AATBirds Weekly Report is the Eagle news, notes, and analysis you need.
Go back. He looks, fires for the end zone. Intercepted. The 20, the 10, the 5. Touchdown. Matt Ware. Midfield. He's going to go. Deshaun Jackson. He steps up, he's hit, and falls forward. And he fumbles the football, and the Eagles have it. It's one. And the Eagles win.
It's all birds. All the time.
And welcome to another edition of the AATBirds Weekly Report. We're going to do a little bit of something different. Storyline week. We're going to talk some storylines of this upcoming Super Bowl. We're not really going to dive into the game. We will do that next week. We want to kind of do some of that. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the NFL awards next week will be announced. And also the Hall of Fame class of 2020. I think 2023, I believe. 2022, class of 2023.
Sure.
And then I have a nice little trivia question at the end here, but going to get into some different topics here. But of course, myself, Johnny Uleka, is joined by Kendall, Quebec Eagles, and Chip at Chip for the Birds. Now, Kendall, I know you weren't on the post-game show. I know you were in Philly, so you were having a little bit of some fun. So I want to get your short, quick, how was the experience, the game, everything along the lines of the NFC Championship win?
Oh, it was a blast. The atmosphere was second to none. I wouldn't say that I'm probably never going to experience anything like that ever again. Especially because considering that's probably going to be Brendan Graham's, Fletcher Cox, and probably Jason Kelsey's last game at the Link. So it was really special to be there and see those guys. The ending was kind of like, I don't want to say emotional, but like just exciting. You got to see the interview with Jalen and Sirianni and Lurie. I thought Lurie gave a really good interview with Bradshaw. The game was pretty much the same from you guys. I think we would have won even if Purdy was out there. And injuries happen, when the Eagles lost Wentz against Seattle in 19, no one showed any sympathy to us at all. McCown literally tore his whole hamstring off, and, no excuses were given for us. So, teams have to overcome adversity, and, the Eagles just came out more ready to play, and I don't feel bad for the Niners because it happens. Eagles lost their quarterback in 2017. They lost Jason Peters. They lost Jordan Hicks. They lost Sproles, so on and so forth. So, dominating win, and to put up 4 rushing touchdowns against number 1 defense in the league, kudos where it's given.
Yeah, and we talked about this a little bit on the pregame or the postgame, Kendall. The idea that they constantly are moving the bar on this Eagles team, where it's, this is going to be a good matchup all week, and then the quarterbacks went down, and the Eagles have this cupcake schedule. Just keep moving the bar. Keep moving the bar on the Eagles, because we know, the idea of the nobody likes us and we don't care. We just don't care at this point because we're playing for a Super Bowl. They've moved the bar on us again, saying that, this Chiefs team is this and that, and this Eagles team is this and that. There's only so many times that you can hear that this Eagles team is only winning because X, Y, and Z, when in reality, this Eagles team was slated to be good. They have been good. They have been dominant. They have been the best team in the NFL pretty much the length of the season. And that's just what it is. Like, I'm not here anymore for and we'll talk about this more next week, obviously, as we get a little closer to the game. I'm not here anymore for the Eagles are only winning because comment. Keep writing us off, keep counting us out. I'm done with it. This Eagles team is dominant, and they should be the favorites in the Super Bowl. Point blank.
So it kind of brings us to the storylines of this Super Bowl. And they're in Super Bowl 52. They got that win. And you're hoping to get the win in 57 here. But my thing is looking at these storylines, and there's so many that you can go to. Of course, the main ones you see is, of course, Andy Reid playing against his old team. You have the Kelsey brothers. Those are the two biggest ones, I would say. You can kind of say Nick Sirianni was a coach under Todd Haley's staff for the Chiefs. So that's also another one you can kind of say a little bit. But there's a lot of storylines in this Super Bowl. You have the first time two African-American quarterbacks are, going up against each other. You have a lot of history in terms of if Jalen wins, he'll be the youngest quarterback to ever win a Super Bowl. There's so many things when you're looking at this Super Bowl, and it's interesting. And you can even look, if the Eagles win, you'll look at Carson Wentz's two backups have won Super Bowls. And there's just so many different things when you look at that. What kind of storyline basically would you say is your favorite storyline so far, or something that I didn't say that you think is a pretty good storyline? I'll start with you, Kendall. Which one do you think is the most compelling, I guess you can say?
I want to say probably Hurts versus Mahomes, because no MVP has won the Super Bowl the same year, correct? I don't think
last time was 1999, Kurt Warner.
Okay. So, I mean, it's been a long time, obviously, and it would be just so awesome to see Hurts, come out on top, and, Mahomes can have his MVP, but if Hurts can lead this team to a Super Bowl win, screw that MVP. You can have that all you want.
You mean the Super Bowl?
Hurts is hungry, and he's a dog, and he's a leader, and I'm sure he's fine without an MVP. So that's probably my biggest storyline is you got these two young quarterbacks, and both number 1 and 2 for the MVP conversation. So it's gonna be interesting to see who comes out on top and proves their worth.
What do you got, Chip?
I think, and again, Kendall, I think the age factor plays a part here. Johnny and I watched 14 years of Andy Reid in Philadelphia. We know everything that this guy brought. He is still the winningest coach in Eagles history. He got us to, all those NFC Championship games in a Super Bowl, never quite got over the hump. And, when the Eagles kind of were doing the beginning of their rebuild, Andy Reid gets to his first Super Bowl with the Chiefs, and again gets hired right away, which he should have, and has been there for 10 years. It took him 5 minutes. Andy Reid, when he got fired a decade ago, had lost the Eagles locker room, so you needed a change, you needed a fresh voice. That's not saying that Andy Reid was a bad coach. That's not saying that Andy Reid was not capable of doing the job. It's that he wasn't capable of doing the job in that locker room anymore, and that's fine. We moved on from him. But a couple of years ago, when he makes the first Super Bowl, the radio stations and all that stuff, you have an Andy Reid Appreciation Day, and everyone's rooting for Andy, and Andy this and Andy that, and Andy this and Andy that. And it's great because I don't have any ill will toward Andy Reid. The fact of the matter is, though, that the Andy Reid Bowl is saying something. You have never seen, and again, Johnny, I know you're my statistician here. I am pretty sure I'm like going to say 98% sure that no coach in NFL history has led 2 different teams to the Super Bowl, and he's had to play against that former team once he got the second team there.
Probably not, because if you really want to think about some of the head coaches to go to 2 different Super Bowls, Mike Holmgren did, but he played the Steelers. He didn't play his former team.
Right. He was Packers and he was Seahawks. So it was always.
Yeah. And when you're thinking of people like coaches that won the Super Bowl, McCarthy hasn't done it.
Nope.
Gruden hasn't done it.
Nope.
You're looking at all these guys, it probably hasn't been done.
And that's kind of the thing here. So first off, it's a lot of the storylines here, and this is why it's kind of cool to do this. A lot of the storylines here have so much first time conversations. You know, Sirianni was a coach for the Chiefs, and Andy Reid fired him. Andy Reid coached both the Chiefs and the Eagles. Andy Reid, if he wins next Sunday, he is the winningest coach in Kansas City history. I mean, there's so much stuff centered around the coaches that it is pretty interesting. And again, I don't hold any ill will toward Andy Reid, but he got his one Super Bowl. It's great. I think the conversation, and again, this isn't necessarily a storyline, is, you know, 2 years ago, a year ago, we were clamoring for the firing of Howie Roseman. Howie Roseman is going to go down as one of the greatest GMs in football history at this point. I mean, man, did we call that one wrong?
Yeah, and you know, the other thing that I was listening to a couple of people talk about this whole Andy Reid stuff and everything, and the one thing that, you know, people want to bring up is what Andy Reid didn't do. He never won a Super Bowl. He laid the foundation of kind of the parameters that's still being followed now with the GM of Howie Roseman, who was here when Andy was here, to be able to build the team certain ways. The other thing, and I want to hit on it because last show I talked about how this Eagles team 5 years later is in the Super Bowl with a different head coach and a different starting quarterback, and how that probably hasn't been done before. It has been done before. The Oakland, Los Angeles, the Raiders, I'll say, because they've changed their city so many times. The Raiders did it when they had Stabler and Madden, and then they had Flores and Plunkett 4 years later. So that was done. I just wanted to, you know, when I'm not right, I want to make sure that I mention that. But the storylines around here, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And that is a storyline too, how the Eagles back in 2017, they win the Super Bowl. And then now 5 years later, it's totally different head coach, totally different quarterback. The whole team is basically revamped. And again, that's another storyline because it goes to credit of how they built this team 2 years ago when we started this podcast and what they did and everything along the lines of building this team to what it is. I didn't think it was going to happen this fast. I did say when they hired Sirianni that it wasn't going to be a super long rebuild. I mentioned that. I said no Eagles team has ever went so long without making the playoffs and stuff like that. Some people thought it was going to be 4 or 5 years before we saw them do anything. Of course, it wasn't. But I think there's just so many different storylines that this matchup has. And one other thing too is Jalen Hurts wins. If he wins this Super Bowl, I would think it propels him to almost get to be close to that starting to be face of the NFL type of thing, where you have a young, successful quarterback. You know, he's a very well-spoken kid. He cares. He's all about winning. He
does it right.
I think a lot of Eagles fans should be lucky that he is the quarterback, because you go from Carson Wentz and what that all was. And, you know, I posted today that hit, and you mentioned that hit on Wentz from Clowney. That was almost the propel.
It ended his career. It ended his career.
Well, in Philadelphia, it basically is almost.
It ended his NFL career because he has never been the same. He has never been the same.
I wouldn't say it ended the NFL career because he's still playing.
But again, he's not the same level.
My thing is that propelled them to go ahead and draft Jalen Hurts in the second round, when a lot of people thought he was more of a third, fourth round pick, and why'd they draft him? And I was surprised too. I was on a live with a bunch of buddies. We were on a live draft thing, a Zoom call, because of course COVID and everything. And I couldn't believe the draft pick, and they were all laughing, thought it was the funniest thing. But again, it's just, you look at it and he was willing to work, and you saw him at Alabama, everything he went through. You saw him at Oklahoma in a different offense, and everything that he's gone through in his career. It's just showed you I don't know, just the type of person he is. And Eagles fan base, organization, everybody should be lucky that he is a part of this team.
Yeah, and I think Chip, to your point about Howie, I've been pushing a lot of tweets about him the past couple of days because he's caught a lot of fire these past couple of years, but you know to be in the position that they are now, it's 5 years, completely new roster and whatnot, and they missed the playoffs 1 year out of these 5 years, just 1 year. And they had this mini rebuild, and they were still competing. And I think that's what Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman does a great job of, is keeping this team competitive, even when they know that they don't have a real chance. Because really, this team, the fan base, the Philadelphia as a whole, they just want the team to be competitive. And Lurie is so good at bringing these head coaches in. We've seen 3 within the past decade or so. They've always won, and I think that's a huge credit to Lurie, because again, he gave a great interview to Bradshaw, and he just understands how important this is to the city. So again, tons of credit for Howie. Even after this year, we have a future now. We have Jordan Davis, Nakobe Dean, Cam Jurgens, AJ Brown, Smitty, Hurts, and you name it. We have tons of bodies sitting around, and then we have two extra first round picks coming up. So, lots to look forward to, and obviously you hope to get this one in the books so that there's a pressure you for next year. But we're sitting in a very good position, and we're very fortunate to be where we are.
All right, let's talk about some of my favorite other storylines because, I'm so excited about this. The Kelsey Bowl. Can we talk about the Kelsey Bowl, please? Can we talk about the Kelsey Bowl, please? The #1 podcast in the world on Apple Podcasts, next to All About the Birds, is the Kelsey Brothers podcast. And I am so excited to listen to episode 25 that they just recorded because you have Jason Kelsey versus Travis Kelsey. There is petitions going around for Mama Kelsey to flip the coin. By the way, learn something. It's not pronounced Kelsey.
Isn't it Kels, right?
It's Kels.
Yeah.
And they've just been called Kelsey for so long that they have both just accepted it. But it's actually pronounced Kels. I don't like that. I've said it. That's enough of that. But so the Kels brothers are playing against one another. I think it's just so perfect because we know that Jason's career is winding down. I don't want to necessarily say that it's over, but after this, but it's winding down. And what a cool thing to play against your brother in a Super Bowl. And to be the first pair of brothers where Jason Kels is going to go down as one of the greatest Eagles of all time. Definitely in the top centers in the NFL history. Travis Kelce will go down as one of the greatest tight ends of all time in the NFL history. I mean, you've got 2 certified Hall of Famers playing against each other and their brothers. It's just a really cool storyline, the Kelce Super Bowl.
You may as well just start calling him Kelsey again because people tune in and think.
Yeah, I don't like it. I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do because it's their name. And even in my classroom, I'm like, make sure you tell me your name so I get it right. But the Kelsey brothers,
that's better.
I know. It's such a cool storyline. And I was hoping for that aspect of it.
No, it is a cool thing for them to be able to basically share, if it is Jason's last year, it is good for them to share something that hasn't been done. It's fun because the podcast they have is so great because it brings out both of their personalities, and I feel it was a great thing for them to start and do. But for me, it's looking at these 2 guys, and of course they're not playing up against each other. They're both on the offensive side of the ball, but it's still the parents get to watch both of their sons play in the Super Bowl, the same game. It's pretty cool because it goes back to when they played at the University of Cincinnati, and for them, it's just able to kind of basically everything culminating into this from where they started all the way into this. So I think it's awesome, and the amount of storylines in this Super Bowl is unbelievable. It's great. There's gonna be a lot more talking. The thing I hate the most is it just takes forever. I want the game to be played, but the Eagles are gonna be doing most of their practices and everything is going to be done this week. The preparation, game planning, all that stuff's going to be done this week. Landon Dickerson did hyperextend his elbow, but he is expected to play in the Super Bowl. All 22 starters are going to be expected to play.
Unheard of.
That's something that I didn't look into. Maybe I should kind of do that for maybe next episode. Seeing every Super Bowl, how many teams had or who had the most amount of starters from week 1 play.
There's no way it's that many.
There's no way it's 22
you know
out
how,
of 22.
You know how lucky you have to be to have all 22 week 1 starters? I mean, granted, Sipos isn't playing, so I guess you exclude him, from the starters, but he's not all 22.
22
yeah, but you know what I'm saying, though. Like,
although I'll be honest, after watching Kern kick these last couple weeks, I miss Sipos. And I was the biggest one banging the drum saying, hey, get rid of that guy. He's a bum. Kern has not been the same as Tennessee Kern.
No, he's older. He's just not. He's not what he was. I don't know what they do there. If Sipos is ready to come back, if he's healthy enough, do they just put Kern on IR just so he's apart? I don't know. Of course, we'll see that in the coming days. But also, it does look like the Eagles will be wearing their midnight green uniforms with the patch and everything. Looks beautiful. I will give this. The Super Bowl logos early on back in the day was amazing. The type of, the graphic work, everything from 2010 to I think like 2020, it was very bland and boring. The last couple Super Bowls, they're coming back, which is great. So that's also something that's awesome. I saw that they were wearing green. So the NFC is the home team this year. So that's why the Eagles will be wearing their green jerseys. But I do want to kind of talk a little bit about the transition this into the NFL awards. The NFL awards will be done next Thursday. Of course, we're going to be talking next Wednesday and talking Eagles Chiefs breakdown. So we're not going to get to that. So kind of going down the list of who we think the NFL awards, who we think should be in. And I'm not going to say what we think each person basically is. What we could do is go kind of the major ones. I'm not going to do some of the offensive, I'm just not going to get into it. The MVP, we'll start with there. Who do you think is going to be the MVP? Not who you want. Who do you think is going to get the MVP?
I'm going to go with Mahomes. It's tough to argue otherwise.
I think they're going to do that. With Hurts being hurt, those 2 games and stuff, I think it just, especially with the supporting cast for Mahomes, I think they're just going to lean that way. And I think
it's just the way history goes. When Mahomes, he also threw for 5,000 yards. He had an incredible year, and for him to continue to do what he's doing without Tyreek Hill, because I predicted them not to make the playoffs because I thought the offense wouldn't be the same, but clearly that's not true at all. So Mahomes is going to win, and I don't think it's going to be unanimous, but it's definitely he's going to have a lot of the first place votes.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree. I think that Mahomes will win. I think Justin Jefferson, you need someone to throw you the ball as a wide receiver. It's why it's a quarterback usually wins the damn award. I think that Josh Allen, again, you look at the players around him, Joe Burrow, you look at the players around him, he's kind of loaded with it makes a lot of sense that those guys are finalists. I do think that Jalen Hurts does have a actual case for it because you saw when he didn't play the drop-off. You saw when he was hurt, the drop-off. But, Kendall, like you said, when you get rid of a Tyreek Hill and Mahomes still puts up the numbers that he does, and they're literally at that point just putting in players. You've got a running back by committee situation. Yes, you still have Travis Kelce. But you've got, you got a bunch of players who, didn't do great on the Giants and didn't do great, or they were not wanted in Pittsburgh. I think Mahomes wins it. I don't think he deserves it, over Jalen Hurts this year. I think Jalen Hurts is the most valuable player to his team, but I do think that Patrick Mahomes will win the NFL MVP award, but it's okay because Jalen Hurts will win the Super Bowl MVP award.
And I'll be fine with that. Let's go to defensive player of the year, basically the defensive MVP. Who I think is going to win is going to be Bosa, who I think should win. With what he's done is Hassan Reddick. What he has done on the field, 19 and a half sacks, 30 quarterback hits, and he's got 6 forced fumbles, and I think 4 fumble recoveries. You're looking at what and also if you compare his snaps to Micah Parsons, to Nick Bosa, he's probably got, I think, about 60 to 70 less pass rushing snaps than those guys. So it really, really points to kind of the type of season he's had. And honestly, he's got to be one of the top 5 all-time Eagles free agent signings.
Easily.
Because of the type of season that he has put together. And it's not just the pass rush. He's been able to do a lot more. He's been able to, keep his gap, keep his lane during the run game, stuff like that. It's not just Jason Babin and let me just rush the passer and I'm not going to do anything else. I don't care what you say. I'm just going to rush the passer 24/7. He's not doing that. And he's still making plays. And the best thing with him is when he gets to the quarterback, he's going after the ball and he gets so many of those strip sacks. And they are so much of a game changer. And I think that also points to the type of player and the type of season that he's having.
I mean, look, if you look at the finalists, I mean, Micah Parsons, he's a dominant defensive player. There's no denying it. But teams scored a lot on the Cowboys. Chris Jones, again, dominant defensive player. That Chiefs defense is not dominant. So then you're really limiting it down to Nick Bosa and Hassan Reddick. At some point, the Eagles defense doing everything that they did will get recognized. Problem is, it won't be this season. Nick Bosa will win the final. He will win the Defensive Player of the Year award, which again, good on him. He can have that. Hassan Reddick will have a Lombardi trophy.
I think the reason why Nick is going to win it is because he kind of had a pretty overall as a season, just well-rounded. It was pretty consistent. The reason why I'm frustrated about Hassan not getting his respects is because Parsons kind of fell off the second half of the year. And that's kind of when Hassan kind of turned it up. So, and Hassan probably could have been better the first part of the year. So it kind of, balances out. But I think Chris Jones, Nick Bosa, they're both deserving to be in there. We saw how valuable Chris Jones was last Sunday or this past Sunday. He's a force to be reckoned with. He's such a great, run stopper. He's a great pass rusher as a defensive tackle. He does a lot for that defensive line, and he's going to be an issue for the Eagles and Jeff Stoutland. So I think it's going to be Nick Bosa, and I do think Hassan probably should be a finalist. I don't think he should win it, but
he should win it. He should win it. I really wish that they didn't cast the votes before the playoffs, right? And I understand you don't want to give an award for playoff excellence because that eliminates, the regular season stuff. But then, Hassan Reddick single-handedly changed the outcome of the NFC Conference Championship game. He ended. I mean, if you look at the injury, potentially this Brock Purdy may have a struggle in the rest of his career. They're talking, Tommy John surgery, 6 to 9 months is unlikely for a return. Brock Purdy is not playing next season, I don't feel. And that was Hassan Reddick. I'm not saying that injuries should be rewarded, but Hassan Reddick changed the game by himself. He literally eliminated their ability to throw the ball, especially once Ndamukong Suh sat on Josh Johnson's head. They couldn't pass the ball. So I do feel that the playoffs should factor in which case, that would hurt Jalen Hurts' MVP cause because Again, he hasn't had the greatest playoffs, but he's won the games. Nick Bosa's an incredible athlete. He's an incredible defensive stud, but he was neutralized in the conference championship game. Why? Because Lane Johnson shut him down. So in the biggest moments when it matters the most, if you can't show up, I do think that needs to be taken into account when you are talking about these awards.
So the last award, like, I don't really want to get into. We know who we think the comeback player of the year is. We all think it's Brandon Graham. I know we've mentioned it multiple times. We're not going to really get into that. I'm not getting into the rookies of the year and all that kind of stuff. It is whatever. I want to talk a little bit about the coach of the year.
Yes.
Well, did we do offensive player of the year? I know we did.
It's just
MVP.
It's Justin Jefferson.
Okay, just wanted to clarify there.
Coach of the year. My thought, on this.
There's only one right answer to this, in my opinion. But you go first. I'm sorry.
Okay. It's not, Brian Dable. I know people, give him. The guy was in a third place team. What third place team gets a coach of the year? I don't care what you did. But I don't know. When you have a coach who is 5-0 against the coach of the year candidates, it's hard to say Nick Sirianni doesn't deserve it. I know what Doug did with the Jaguars.
The 2-year turnaround has been insane.
And, I understand that. But for me, it's hard. A team that has gone right now, they're 16-3. He's 5-0 against the head coach of the year, the coach of the year candidates. It sucks. I think, my opinion, I think Shanahan is probably going to be the one that's going to get it because of the situation with being down your third string quarterback, making it to the NFC Championship. Now, I know they voted on beforehand, but
right.
Getting that record, winning the 12 straight, all that with your third string quarterback, I think he's going to wind up.
Yeah, Shanahan is going to win coach of the year. I mean, you start the season with Trey Lance and he gets hurt. You then go and say, hey, Jimmy Garoppolo can do the job. And he does. And then he gets hurt. And then you take the last pick of the draft and he goes 7-0. Or sorry, 7-1. So I do think that Shanahan will win it. You just being an offensive genius when it comes to using, CMC and George Kittle and Deebo Samuel and kind of making the players around him great. But again, Nick Sirianni's coach of the year. To me, there really is no question. It goes back to my point at the beginning of the show, which is the overwhelming level of disrespect shown to this Eagles team. And I'm okay with it up to a point. I'm okay with it with the fact of, keep counting us out, keep writing us off. It's fine. At the end of the day, we're going to be hoisting a Lombardi trophy, and that's wonderful. But at some point, it does get a little bit goddamn ridiculous. And I feel like we're kind of at that point talking about these individual awards. And again, the overall goal, of course, is to get a Super Bowl and hoist a Lombardi trophy and go down Broad Street. We know all that. But to have all these individual awards and have none of the Eagles legitimate contenders for them, when once again we've been the best team in football since week 1. There has not been another team that has even come close to us. I just feel like at some point the disrespect needs to be spoken aloud.
I feel like historically, head coaches that are on the best teams. Now, I might be wrong saying this, but I feel like head coaches that have been the best teams, like Andy Reid, is never up for Coach of the Year. Bill Belichick is never up for Coach of the Year. Like, those guys have been historically a part of really good teams. I feel like coaches of really good teams don't really get the coaching consideration. I feel like it's coaches who make the efforts into making the playoffs. Like, isn't Dan Campbell a finalist or someone?
No,
Dabble's
Dabble's
a finalist, and again, third place team, and he got swept by Sirianni 3 games this year.
So if you want to look at coach, because you mentioned the guys that aren't usually up for it. Last Eagles head coach to win Coach of the Year was 2002. Andy Reid won.
Yeah.
Now, again, you can kind of put it towards what Nick Sirianni's done in terms of a couple years, and then you get this breakout and you get the coach of the year. Andy Reid, couple of years, 2002, that huge breakout. So you win coach of the year. Last time Belichick won was 2010. He won 2010, 2007.
It was his third one.
03.
Yeah, so I mean, personally, without a question, I think coach of the year is Shanahan. I feel like he's so deserving of it. I personally just love him a lot. I think he's a really great offensive mind. For him to have the team in the position that they were with Brock Purdy, who you throw Purdy in any other offense, he's not doing what he did. And I feel like Shanahan knows how to get the most out of quarterbacks. And I mean, we've even seen Shanahan's coaching tree prosper. I mean, they have Matt LaFleur, D'Amico Ryans, Robert Saleh. Shanahan knows what the hell he's doing, and he gets it from his dad. So, with considering the circumstances, I feel as though Shanahan's definitely much deserving.
I'm looking at this list.
Yeah, I know. I was about to say it. You look at the coach of the year list, and it's pretty underwhelming.
It is. You know what it is, Johnny? That's kind of what I was going to say. If you look at the coach of the year lists that people have won, so you have Mike Vrabel, Kevin Stefanski won it in 2020 with the Cleveland Browns. A Harbaugh, Matt Nagy won with the Bears, Sean McVay with the Rams, Jason Garrett with the Cowboys. A lot of the times, unless you are extremely dominant. So when Harbaugh won with the Ravens, he was 14-2. That makes sense. When Ron Rivera won his second one, he was 15-1 with the Panthers. That makes sense. A lot of the other ones, they are the holy crap surprise list. Like when Bruce Arians won with the Cardinals, he was filling. If I'm correct, in 2014, he took over for somebody, right?
No, that was 2012. He took
when he also won. Right. Okay.
Yeah,
Stefanski, holy crap, the Browns are decent. Let's give him an award. Mike Vrabel, holy crap, the Titans are decent. Let's give him an award. Matt Nagy, holy crap, the Bears are decent. Let's give him an award. This list does not impress me much.
But the funny thing is, when you go and you scroll up into like the 80s, into the 90s, you have
it's the excellences.
Yeah, Bill Walsh, Joe Gibbs, Mike Ditka, Bill Parcells, Mike Ditka again, Jimmy Johnson, Bill Cowher, Dan Reeves.
Jimmy Johnson won in 1990 with a 7-9 Cowboys team.
Yeah, because they were 1-15, and that maybe there's the precursor to the Brian Dable argument, because he took a 1-15 Cowboys team and made them 7-9.
No one else has ever won. Not I say ever. Since 1990, no one else with a losing record has won. Actually, as I scroll through, since 1957, no one else ever with a losing record has won coach of the year.
Yeah. So that was the only one.
Freaking Jimmy Johnson, man.
It's kind of a precursor, because they wind up turning that team into a powerhouse. But no, and the only two Eagles head coaches that I believe, because the coach of the year started in 1957. So 1960, Buck Shaw with the 1960 champion Philadelphia Eagles. 1995, which
Ray
Rhodes. And then 2002, Andy Reid. So there's only been 3 Eagles who've won.
Did Chip Kelly not win one?
No.
Ron Rivera won in 2013. 2014, Bruce Arians won. In 2015, Ron Rivera won again.
Okay.
So.
Right, but again, in 2013, Ron Rivera had a 12-4 Panthers team. 11-5 with the Cardinals, but
it's crazy. If you look, at 63 to 72, it's George Halas, Don Shula, George Halas, Tom Landry, George Allen,
Hall of Fame coaches.
Don Shula, Bud Grant, Paul Brown, George Allen, Don Shula. Yeah. So let's say this award's kind of been a little bit watered down in recent years. They want to just give it to
the most surprising head coach.
Yeah, basically a surprising thing,
which is why Sirianni should have won it last year.
The coach of the year. Yeah, and that's why Doug should have won it in 2017. He beat Sean McVay. But that is
he owned Sean McVay.
Exactly. It is what it is there. But want to kind of turn this into looking at the Hall of Fame class. So the 2023 Hall of Fame class, there's some notable names on here. We're gonna kind of. You want to pull it up, Chip? If you want to pick your 5 and what you got. So there's gonna be 5 of the modern era finalists selected, and then there is 4 senior candidates that can be selected. And it's not guaranteed that all 4 get selected, but 4 of them can be selected. The 4 seniors are Chuck Howley of the Cowboys, Joe Klecko, who's known for with Mark Gastineau in the New York Jets, Ken Riley, a defensive back, and Don Coryell.
I don't know those guys at all.
I think that. Look, I mean, here's kind of my thing. At least with the older class, you can kind of write stories about the NFL without including any of them. There's a reason why they haven't been put in the Hall of Fame yet. Maybe 1 or 2 will get in, but I think that the bigger conversation is this list of finalists for the modern day that is really
There's many good players.
There's some names on here. So I mean, Johnny, I mean, you're more than welcome to kind of speak about the old heads there, but I got none of them, honestly.
I think's gonna get in. I got
Sure.
2 of them. I think Don Coryell, Eric
Sure.
Coryell. He's he made that offense, and it's a precursor of what the kind of offenses you see today. So I think he needs to be in. So I would say him, and I would say Joe Klecko. But you could talk about the modern era guys. Who you think?
So, I mean, for me, and again, I'm just going to go through this list real quick. So if you guys are listening, here's the list. Darrelle Revis, Joe Thomas, Willie Anderson, Torrey Holt, Reggie Wayne, Devin Hester, Andre Johnson, Jared Allen, DeMarcus Ware, Zach Thomas, Dwight Freeney, Albert Lewis, Rondé Barber, Patrick Willis, and Darren Woodson. For me, this is a very defensive, heavy group that's about to go in. By the way, no quarterbacks. Interesting. So Darrelle Revis for me gets in. And you said there's going to be 5, right?
Yeah, 5.
So Darrelle Revis is going to get in simply for his Revis Island shenanigans. You know, he obviously dropped off when he was no longer a Jet, but Darrelle Revis will get in. Joe Thomas should get in. You want to talk about a dominant offensive tackle on a bad football team constantly. He locked down that position for as long as he did. So I think Darrelle Revis, Joe Thomas, 2 of them. I would love to say Devin Hester, but he's known only as a punt return man. I can't put him in. However, Reggie Wayne being, the other half of, the Peyton Manning of it all, Reggie Wayne's going to get in. I think DeMarcus Ware is going to get in. Just talking about straight up defensive dominance. And if you're only putting in 5, I mean, while I'm torn, and I want to say Darren Woodson, I think Andre Johnson being one of, if not the greatest player in Houston Texans history, is going to put him in. So for me, it's Revis, Thomas, Reggie Wayne, DeMarcus Ware, and Andre Johnson.
I think Devin Hester needs to get in. He's just he changed the game in a lot of ways. I mean, obviously, we haven't really seen anybody like him maybe since Cordell Patterson, but I think Devin Hester was just so unique, and I think it speaks to how good he was. Now that you don't really see anybody like him, I think Reggie Wayne definitely gets in. I would love to see Patrick Willis get in. I think he's deserving to get in, but he might be another year. DeMarcus Ware is going to get in. Darrelle Revis, I think, is more closer to Patrick Willis in terms of like potentially not getting in. And Joe Thomas, I guess you can put in that group too of kind of a 50-50. And then I think maybe Jared Allen.
It's funny the Devin Hester thing, because I kind of went against my other thing that I said where you talk about writing the game of the NFL without a certain player. You're right. You can't write the NFL without Devin Hester. Problem is that there have been other guys that have done what Deion Sanders did it and did it better. Devin Hester, yeah, great. You could put Tyreek Hill back there. He could do the same thing. You could put Cordell Patterson back there. He could do the same thing. I just think that for Devin Hester to get in, he would have had to have been better at the other aspects of the game.
I think Hester will get in. I don't think it'll be this year.
Yeah.
It's going to take a little bit for him to get in.
My Joe Thomas argument, by the way, again, offensive lineman is so tough to put in. And we always talk about how like, oh, Jason Peters is going to get in. Jason Peters, one of his biggest problems is his health and his availability. Joe Thomas, on top of being as great as he was, never missed snaps. Like, not even games. He didn't miss snaps. The dude was always healthy. The dude was always there on absolutely garbage Cleveland Browns teams. On top of that, he was an ambassador for the entire team. I mean, he was, I want to say, president of the NFLPA for a couple of years, if I'm correct. I'm pretty sure. So I do feel like Joe Thomas is actually more of a lock than you think, Kendall.
You know, I think one person that gets forgotten, and he's on here, is Willie Anderson. Willie Anderson was a top-tier offensive tackle. Now, of course, you had guys like Jonathan Ogden, Orlando Pace, you know, players like that. He was only at 4 Pro Bowls and 3 All-Pros, and he played 195 games in this league. So I think he's another guy. But looking at this list, it's tough. I think only one receiver gets in, and I think it's going to be Reggie Wayne. I think DeMarcus Wayne.
Reggie's for sure to get in.
Yeah.
I think Rondé has a good shot, but I think with only 5. I got Reggie, DeMarcus Ware, Joe Thomas. Even though I like Willie Anderson, but I think Joe Thomas just had the more decorated career. And then I probably would go. I'd go Patrick Willis. Patrick Willis was absolutely dominant.
Dog.
And
him and Navarro were such a scary duo.
Yeah, and the last one, I'm gonna probably say, I kind of want to go Dwight Freeney just because of the type of player
I was considering Dwight too,
but you know, I'm gonna go with Dwight Freeney. I like some of these other guys, but I think those be the guys. So I have Wayne, Ware, Thomas, Dwight Freeney, and Patrick Willis.
Okay, wait. I got more on the Joe Thomas resume. He played 10,000 consecutive snaps. He is the only player in NFL history to do that. 10,000 consecutive snaps. He is 10 consecutive Pro Bowls, first in NFL history to do that. And he was voted as the 7th greatest offensive tackle of all time. I'm going to say it is a 100% lock that Joe Thomas gets in the Hall of Fame this year.
Yeah, I think
not even 50-50, 100% lock.
Yeah,
that might be my lock of the week.
We're doing that as our locks of the week. And again, he retired early. He retired at 33.
Well, he retired because he was starting to experience memory loss because, you know, he played 10,000 consecutive snaps. But he doesn't even go any, like he still does a bunch of stuff with the NFL. Like he's on the NFL Network. He does pre and post game. Like he is an incredible ambassador for the NFL.
I think the one thing that's tough is basically the wide receiver position. You know, guys like Torrey Holt, Andre Johnson.
Torrey Holt played with like Mark Bulger. You
know, if Torrey Holt's going to get in because if Isaac Bruce is in, Torrey Holt deserves to be in.
Sure.
Andre Johnson also deserves to be in, but I don't think it's going to be this year. I think Reggie Wayne, with only having 5 spots, I think Reggie Wayne's the only receiver that gets in. But it's tough because some of these, because we're getting to the point now, especially, you know, for Chip, like looking at these guys, I remember these guys' whole entire career.
Yeah. Jared Allen, you couldn't stop Jared Allen. Yeah. You could not stop Jared Allen. He was ferocious.
Yeah. You know, it's tough. And the one thing that I have is Eric Allen deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. They have Albert Lewis got to be a finalist, and Eric Allen still isn't in the Hall of Fame. I'm just, if for some reason Albert Lewis gets inducted into the Hall of Fame, nothing against the guy, but Eric Allen, it absolutely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. You just look at his numbers and how they stack up with the other Hall of Fame corners that are in there, and he deserves to be in. But it's going to be interesting because it's funny. and I've said this to a couple people. Tom Brady retires last year. Now I know Tom Brady retired today. We have all that, whatever. He retired last year, which starts your clock 5 years, and then you can be eligible for the Hall of Fame. Well, there was another quarterback named Ben Roethlisberger who retired. Tom Brady doesn't want to share the spotlight with another quarterback.
Right.
So unretires, not saying that's his, but unretires, come back again. And then he retires this year. Aaron Rodgers isn't going to retire because those both guys, egocentric, they're both not going to want to go to the Hall of Fame together. I think Aaron Rodgers retires next year, so then they can all have their own day every year. Because
I'm so excited to see Aaron Rodgers directly follow Brett Favre's career arc. So Brett Favre plays forever in Green Bay. They draft Aaron Rodgers, so Brett Favre goes to the Jets.
So I do want to bring this up is looking at 2024, the players who are eligible for the Hall of Fame next year. And you tell me if any of these guys are first ballot guys.
Okay.
All right. I'm only going to name a few because some of these absolutely are not. But Julius Peppers.
Yes.
Antonio Gates.
Yeah.
If Sterling Sharp isn't in there, I don't know that Antonio Gates should be.
Well, Antonio Gates has a.
Doesn't he do most touchdowns by tight end?
I think he does. Antonio Gates has over 100 touchdowns.
I get it, but
yeah,
he wasn't on the same level as a Tony Gonzalez or now the tight ends that are there.
Let's look at this. So Antonio Gates is an eight-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All-Pro. He's got 955 catches, 11,841 yards, and 116 receiving touchdowns.
First ballot.
That's a pretty
damn good resume.
And he played until he was 38. So he's got a long career. He's got the numbers to stack up.
He wouldn't be on my first ballot. Depending on the other names, I'm trying to keep my 5.
If Sterling Sharp's not in the Hall of Fame and Gates isn't, I'm not saying he's the first ballot. I'm saying he's a Hall of Famer.
But the question you're asking is he a first ballot?
Well, yeah, he's not a first ballot, but he is a Hall
not
of
for me.
Fame.
Yes, he's a Hall of Famer, not a first ballot. Go.
The other guys that I don't see being a Hall of Famer because I just don't see it. Jamal Charles, no, didn't have a long enough career. Brandon Marshall, the receiver. No. That's basically it. Haloti Nada, I don't think those guys are all. Eric Berry, they're all not. I think Peppers and Gates are the only two.
Peppers should be in there.
Let me see. Anybody else? It does look like Derek Anderson is the quarterback is eligible. Sorry, I had to throw that in there. No former Eagles. Andrew Luck is, but I don't think he's a.
He will not be, and that's
Andrew would have been.
Greg Hardy. No.
Unless they're giving out free drugs, no.
Yeah. 2025 before we come off here. So 2025 is interesting because Luke Kuechly.
No.
Marshall Yanda, the guard from the Baltimore Ravens.
Nope. He was really good, but not first ballot.
Earl Thomas, unless his brother's going to be there. I don't know. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. But Adam Vinatieri.
He will be.
Yes.
Joe Staley, who's kind of gives you that Joe Thomas vibe. Those two guys were.
Joe was really good.
2 dominant tackles. Marshawn Lynch. I don't think so, unfortunately. Very good player. I don't think he's Hall of Fame. Eli Manning, which I don't think he is a Hall of Famer, but I think he gets
his name might get him in first ballot though.
And the fact that he's got 2 Super Bowl wins over Tom Brady.
So I want to bring this up because it kind of brings me towards the Devin Hester argument. All right, Darren Sproles.
Not a Hall of Famer.
At some point, yes.
At some point,
a dominant player in the return game and did a lot more than Hester did on the offensive side of the ball. It's a fun little argument coming down the line if Hester doesn't get inducted. But 2 other guys that are left, and then we'll wrap it up with my trivia question is Clay Matthews, Cameron Wake,
no,
Terrell Suggs.
Maybe.
So
Suggs, maybe.
So that it's interesting to look at.
Suggs probably not, but he'll get in eventually.
Possibly eligible, down the line. Of course, Bauer checking in here. Sorry, I had to put that on there.
Get in there, Arizona.
So I have a trivia question here. You can't look it up. I don't want to hear no typing. I don't want to hear anything like that. Can you name or how many Eagles and Chiefs to play on both teams can you name? They had to have played on both, not coaches,
All right,
not
can we
Andy
like
Reid,
can
not
we like think
Spagnuolo.
first and not like speak out loud and then your answers?
Do
Just
what?
go back. We'll go back and forth 1-on-1
Yeah.
Okay. Blake, you mean like all time or current?
all time.
All time.
Oh my god, damn.
So they had to have played for the Chiefs and played for the Eagles.
I'll start.
Oh my
Nick
god. So
Foles.
bad at this.
Nick
that's a good
Foles would go one.
Johnny, you go first. Or do I have to go?
No, Johnny's the host of it. I went first.
Ah,
Nick Foles.
Shit. Oh my god. Stefan Wisniewski.
Ooh, that is Stefan Wisniewski is good.
Ron Jaworski.
Oh, you got Jaworski. Okay.
Damn, I didn't know that.
These two players here, I'll give you a
Jason
hint.
Avant?
I think you are right, actually.
Really?
I think you are right. I believe, yes, Jason Avant. Yep.
Let's
He
go.
played his last 2 seasons with Kansas City because Andy Reid was there. That is a good one. Because it was kind of gonna. I do have a hint. I can give hints if you want a hint.
Hey, give me a hint.
All
Yeah,
right.
Chip needs a hint.
These, and it's going to be 2 players. They played on Chip Kelly's team. So there's 2 different players. They played with Chip Kelly.
Wait, did
Jimmy
McCoy go over?
Yep.
LaShawn McCoy.
Tom McCoy. He won a Super Bowl not playing. He was
That's right.
inactive.
And then won another one not playing.
Oh yeah, that's wrong.
So there's another player that played on Chip Kelly's football team.
Macklin, right? Got another one.
Macklin. Yep, Macklin is on there.
Uh-huh.
Now I will count this one. He had a memorable play on a certain down and distance. He never
Freddie.
played for the team, but he did work out for them.
Freddie.
Freddie Mitchell. That's one.
Fred X.
You probably won't get a couple of the other ones.
Honestly, I
Give me
feel
some
like there's
more
only been a
hints.
handful. So like as much as like our coaches go back and forth, like you can go Spags, right? Steve
Yeah.
Spagnuolo, coach for both. Andy Reid, coach for both. Nick Sirianni, coach for both. So like you could do coaches
You could do
probably
coaches.
easier. These
Yeah.
teams have not played each other a lot. Like these 2 teams, while they're so linked up, have not like really overlapped. Like if you did the same game with the Colts, oh my God.
Yeah. There's another one. John Wellborn. Here's one. He's one. Follower of the show. So I want to at least plug that. Also, follower of the show, Mark McMillan, cornerback, played with the Eagles for a number 92 to 95, and then played with the Chiefs and the 49ers. So Tony Stewart, former tight end, played at Penn State, Allentown Central Catholic. And you also have Jason Dunn, played with the Eagles and the Chiefs as well. It's a lot more than I thought. Quentin Caver. He's an old
Didn't
linebacker.
Quentin Michael too?
Quentin Michael did not. He played with the St. Louis Rams.
That's right. Okay.
Jared Page, that debacle, having him as a safety. I think that was 2014. No, 2012 with Andy Reid. He played for both teams. So there's a lot that have played for both.
Wait. Chase Daniel.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, that's
Oh.
a good one.
Chase Daniel.
I'm Mr. Quarterback. I got Nick Foles, Jaworski, and Chase Daniel.
That's a pretty good one there. I was
Ugh.
thinking,
I don't like that one.
What?
I feel dirty about that one.
like there's some that have played with the Eagles and then coached with the Chiefs, like you were saying, like Mike Kafka. He played with the Eagles, coached with the Chiefs. Greg Lewis played with the Eagles, coached with the Chiefs. You have that, but it's an interesting thing. I wanted to bring it up because it was a
That was
fun
really
little
fun.
thing to kind of think about. And it's going to be fun. Next week we're going to be, breaking this game down. I may try and get a guest. I'm not 100% sure. It may not be a Kansas City it may be somebody in terms of related with the Eagles, so we could talk, break down the game that way. But this was a fun little storyline episode, talk about awards and kind of touch on all things with this bye week coming up. Nobody's watching the Pro Bowl.
God. They just need to get rid of it.
Yeah, they should just name Pro Bowlers, and that's just it. But I don't want to get in that because that could just lead down to a dark, deep hole. Because there's a lot of dark energy in Philly, apparently.
Dude, what the hell is that?
There's so much that we could talk about. Everything on Twitter that I saw this weekend. You got baby dicks. You got a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah.
That was interesting.
It was very interesting. Something I did not need to see or want to see. Chip, if you don't know, I'm not sending you it. So
No, thank you.
do some research. But with that, we're going to end the show like we always do with a very happy and a very joyful Go Birds.
Go
Super Bowl
Birds!
champions.
This is Matt Ware. Hey, for all the Eagle content you need, go follow All About the Birds. They do a damn thing. Check them out.
Hey, Eagles fans, I may be in Tampa, but I know where to find the best Eagles content out there. Check out my friends at All About the Birds.
Philadelphia, what's up? This your boy Freddie Mitchell, a.k.a. Fred X. It's all about the bird.
All birds all the time. All birds all the time.
All About the Birds provides you with weekly analysis, game recaps, informative interviews, and it's all birds all the time.